everybody, my name is Emily and I am a director with Covolve. Most of you will never have heard of Covolve before, maybe 7-10 people in this room after today. So I'd like to take you through three things. The first is an introduction to Covolve as a business and to talk about generally the growth of technology in construction and manufacturing, to take a look at some successful AI use cases in our industry, of which there are many, and to take a look at how we can de-risk AI, particularly as we look to introduce it or make it a greater part of existing business. But first, to start with Covolve and the technology market generally. So Covolve is a venturing company. We exist to invest in and build tech for new and better ways of working with building materials, and we're part of the Kingspan Group. So you might ask why Kingspan or any other building material manufacturer who can successfully sell building material products might go and set up a digital venturing company. And there's a couple of reasons why. The first one is that there is a lot of investment moving into the construction technology and property technology space. So construction technology alone in 2023 was valued at 23 billion as a market, and investment is expected to grow there to 50 billion by 2026. There's a lot of new talent, I guess, moving into the industry, or people from technical or technology roles moving into construction to bring technology to our industry. And that means that there's lots of new ideas, new companies, and a technology ecosystem emerging, but it's fragmented and it's localized. And venturing companies come in to try and solve lots of problems. The predominant one is capital, the one that how we invest in other companies. But the one that we like to look at it, because Covolve, is the opportunities to test out and improve technology in existing businesses is really hard to do. So if someone comes to you with an idea or a new technology and you have your KPIs to meet or your commercial deadlines or whatever, you're just not going to stop your business to allow this thing to be tested and proven. And that's what we look to do, because high value, high potential technology ideas are getting lost every year for just the pure inability to be able to improve and test them out in the marketplace. We can do that because we're part of the Kingspan Group. So we have access to over 200 companies and an ecosystem of professionals in AEC to test and improve those technologies to bring that to market. And we still remain incredibly focused on technology innovations in the building materials space. So ways and new and interesting ways to work with building materials to deliver on the Kingspan ambition of ultra-performing building envelopes. Our approach, and there's lots of ways you can go about venturing, but the particular one we look at is how we can bring construction technologies to market. So Kingspan is a 60-year-old business, which means it has routes to market and manufacturing facilities and sales teams, operations teams, all of that kind of expertise. And we can support companies in the construction technology space to bring their products to market through our ecosystem. We launch our first one in Q1 of next year called Covolve Fit. And the other thing we do is invest. We're privileged enough to be an investor in Invicara. So we look at strategic alignment and how we can invest with other businesses who strategically align with our own values and our own ambition, but also to look at how we can understand and leverage emerging trends in the market. One of those examples has been Invicara, and the partnership that's resulted over the years when we talk about digital twins is Icon, Kingspan's Global Innovation Centre, has a digital twin built on the Invicara platform. So we're able to look at everything from who installed a particular panel to how much water was used between a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And naturally, based on Anand's presentation, the opportunities for AI there in terms of what we can do with the data of buildings is immense. But from an investment perspective, generally, when we look at AI, last year, $690 million was invested in construction technology in the emerging tech category. So that emerging tech category is inclusive of AI, and I'd imagine if you looked at that list of companies, it would be harder to find one that didn't have an AI capability than did. And for all I've talked about in the sense of the challenges that companies face, whether it be an investment one or I can't figure out how to test this or whatever it might be, there is a huge amount of success and a huge amount of growth in the industry from a technology perspective and the introduction of AI. So what I'd like to talk through is just a couple of examples of AI businesses, AI first businesses who have found their foothold in this industry. And I'm sure there are plenty more examples that you can all think of or are all actively using in your lives, roles, whatever it might be. But I'd like to talk to Evolve Lab, Augmenta, and Viact. So Evolve Lab was set up in 2015 stateside by a guy called Bill Allen. AI first company wanted to look at how he could use AI to speed up different elements of the design process, but to do that without throwing out the technology workflows that everyone had become accustomed to using, your Revits and the like. And he's done that to great success. He's done a number of kind of AI apps that integrate with different parts of the design workflow. His latest one is Veris AI, which is a visualization app, works with all your kind of core systems that you would see there, but it's about putting in the parameters that you might have for a particular design. Maybe you have building material requirements, maybe you have performance parameters, you're trying to hit a particular U value, maybe it's an interior and exterior part of a facade, there might be something specific to do with the location. You put all of this into the app and it'll spit you out a design iteration in minutes. And it'll keep doing that until you tell it to stop. So what would have taken at the very least hours and sometimes in some cases weeks, we can now do very quickly. The second example I have is Augmenta, which looks particularly at the design of electrical raceway systems. So Augmenta's ambition is about trying to create code-compliant, fully constructible buildings. And they've started with electrical system design or electrical raceway design, but they want to look at the whole kind of mechanical electrical suite. But they've started here. They estimate that they can cut design time down by 40%. They work with all of the background models you might have, again, in Revit or otherwise, to create these clash-free solutions. And each one will show you the trade-off between installation time, cost, etc., whatever it might be on your project. And it goes down to the screw level, so it'll help you to generate a detailed BOM at the end of it. And the last one I have is Viact. Slightly different company. The last two I shared with you were generative AI solutions, and this one looks at a visual application of AI. So this is a Hong Kong-based company. They were set up in 2016, and they wanted to look at whether AI could have an impact on site safety. So they integrated AI with standard site CCTV systems to be able to track and monitor things like the incorrect use of PPE. Is there too much machinery in one area? What's happening when people are working from height or in confined spaces? The idea being that if you've one guy or two guys or whatever looking at 6, 12, 18 screens, that AI can pick up on the risk much faster than, the human eye just can't follow that much information all at once. So what it will do is it will send real-time reports if it sees that there's a worker at risk or whatever, and it'll also generate longer-term reports on how sites are performing and if there's opportunities for safety. They're now a part of all of China's state projects. And they've recently extended their AI use case out into ESG. So looking at things like how waste and material might be handled on site. And that's just really a flavour of AI first companies that are out in the market. But sometimes I think it's a little bit different when we're talking about how we can bring AI into existing businesses or existing operations or into much more established businesses. And I know for the Covolve team, predominantly, the vast majority of us would have worked in corporate innovation, digital type change functions before we were part of Covolve. And when we looked at bringing anything in that was new, AI or otherwise, we kind of learned from our failures, I guess, or some things that could have been a lot more successful in terms of how we can de-risk against change. And all we got to do is swap out change with AI here. So we'd just like to share a couple of those with you. And the first one is independence. So if you are thinking or talking about starting an AI program, bringing something into your business, whatever it might be, how much focus or attention can it be given from a particular team or individual, whatever, depending on the scale and scope of it. One of the reasons that Covolve was set up as its own business with its own identity and its own objectives was that it didn't get distracted from the day-to-day business, because new ideas can't compete with day-to-day business. Like if you've got a customer screaming at you for something or a KPI to hit or a commercial objective, and this thing that may benefit you 6 months down the line, maybe you hope, like the day-to-day is just going to win every time. So that independence, that focus, and making sure that will just give it its best chance of success. And we all have those examples of, I'll just give this person this project on top of their day job or the sideline or whatever it might be, and it just doesn't set it up for the best shot of success. And that has an impact then on any sort of new introduction of technology or change as you kind of move through that cycle or anything else you try to bring in. The second consideration is how specific can you get? So what problem is it that you're trying to solve with AI or anything? And once you've figured out what your problem is, probably the most important question to ask yourself is, does anyone actually care? Because if it's not a problem for the business worth solving, it's going to be very, very difficult to get it in. And again, I've put my name to more than one project where we did something because it was the right thing to do. So you might think, I'll bring AI into this particular part of my business or my team because it's the right thing to do. But unless the business value or the business driver is strong enough, it's going to be really difficult to achieve the success it could be. So, I mean, it could be something like maybe it'll give you access to a new customer segment, or it'll take away a drain on the business, but it has to be something that the business really, really cares about. And I know I've spoken about independence in the last slide, but the other thing about figuring out if there's people who care about solving it, well, you need to focus on developing out whatever solution you need to do. You do still need a couple of advocates in your business, or people who can talk well about it when you're not in the room, or who'll be a test bed or someone to run kind of stuff by. So it's while you're focused, you have to make sure that you don't lose sight of the business too. So there's a bit of a balance there. And the last thing I'd say is small. This might actually end up having absolutely nothing to do with technology, but what is the cheapest, fastest, easiest thing that you can do today to move something forward? That might be as simple as, there was a couple of comments kind of earlier in the day about just using ChatGPT or another solution as part of your day to prove that technology works out for you. It might be something as figuring out that a problem you think is worth solving with AI actually is. Could be the Netflix model where you post some CD to yourself and see does it arrive undamaged the next day. Out of interest, their AI algorithm alone, the piece of code that personalises the recommendations for you, and for all of us actually when we watch television, is valued at $1 billion. So in terms of the potential of AI, that's a big one. And there kind of really are lessons learned when we look at bringing change or new tech or AI into any of our businesses or any of our projects or programs of work. And I suppose one more thing, and it's an ask of you really, is when we look as Covolve at investing in businesses or looking at what we should invest in, we don't want to do that, with just the Kingspan lens or the Kingspan business lens. So we'd like to ask and invite all of you to, if you want, scan the QR code there and be added to our network of contributors. If we're considering technologies for AI ventures and we want to look at whether it solves a problem or maybe test how it's used or whatever it might be, that you get real people get the opportunity to do that and make sure that it's a problem worth solving for yourselves. So to leave that there for a second. Okay, I think we're good. And a final thought before I leave you today. So artificial intelligence is a wonderful thing for all of the value that it can give us in terms of efficiency and making life easier and faster, and I use it all the time myself, and I'm a very good advocate for it. But it isn't the same as intelligence. And that's just the thought that I would leave you with today. Thank you.